Hi, Dr. Monte here. Love is hard. Let's say you're in your marriage or any big relationship and you've just had a big fight. Fights are going to happen. But you had a fight, it's starting to cool down. Now you have to decide, what are you going to do? The next few critical steps you take are going to really either hurt your relationship or help your relationship. And in the end, make you either happier or more unhappy. The next few critical steps you take are important. Let's talk about those. Stay tuned. Dr. Monte here with Peace in the Storms Ministry. This is the second video in the love series, Finding Love, and it's going to take a critical look at what do you do in an argument. Arguments always happen, fights happen, problems happen. It's just inevitable in a relationship. The really key to have a good marriage or good relationship is really how do you resolve the conflicts. There should be conflicts because none of us are perfect, and if you're not having conflicts, you're holding too much stuff in. But if you're letting too much stuff out and you're having fights too much, that's a problem also. But what do you do with those fights? I always remember a long time ago learning that the secret to a good marriage is not how often you fight, but how you fight. And what do you do at the end? And I really want to ask you a question, especially you men out there. Are you really tough enough and manly enough to do what's necessary to take care of your wife, to take care of your girlfriend, take care of your family? And if you're a woman out there, do you really love your man enough to do what it takes to bring peace in the marriage and to bring, to make it grow stronger and better? I don't want anyone to get run over in their marriage, but what you do with all this is very critical to help us get better. So many times in a marriage, in a fight, it's all about we almost feel like it's winning. How can I win? How can I get my point across? How can I show that I'm right and they're wrong? Let's be honest. Every single fight, we all think that, or else we wouldn't be fighting. We only get mad and upset if we think we're right. So nothing's wrong with thinking you're right. But what do you do with it at that point is what the critical question is. Are you going to see yourself as the winner or loser? Or are you going to see the marriage and the relationship as being the winner or loser? Sometimes we got to see, if you want to be happy, you've got to see the marriage as the goal, the relationship as the goal, not your being right or wrong as the goal. You have to see that it's you. And I'm wanting you to be happy. It's all about, let's sound selfish for a second. It's about your happiness. Yeah, I want you to be happy. I want me to be happy. But being happy is not necessarily being right or proving I'm right. And so can you see that if you put the marriage first and the relationship first, then you will become happier and you'll win in the end. Now, won't you? Now, I'm not saying at all that in a fight you should sort of swallow your pride and just say yes, I'm wrong and you're right and be run over. That's not what I'm saying at all. So let's say you're right or you're wrong. If you're in the right, you've got to be able to handle that well too. But the critical thing, the one critical thing I want you to look at in an argument is, can you possibly consider maybe he or she had a point? Maybe you might be wrong. That's the number one thing is, can you just consider that you might be right or wrong? Look at it. And then the second thing is, if you see that you might be partly in the wrong or fully in the wrong, can you then apologize? And then how do you apologize? So those are the two big critical points of this video. So considering you might be wrong and then apologizing if you are. So apologizing is not weakness. It's not at all. It takes an incredible amount of love and strength to be able to look and consider if you're wrong and then do something about it in the appropriate way, to swallow your pride. Doesn't mean letting yourself get run over. It means doing the right thing. That takes a lot of strength. Be big enough and strong enough to do that in the first place, to at least consider it. Okay, so let's take a typical argument. You're sitting there and you're tired, you're grumpy, life is getting hard and stressful, you're not putting all your thought and energy and devotion into making the other person happy, you're just getting through life. But something happens, one of you snaps, one of you gets a little snippy, one gets irritated, maybe something's been building up and you haven't been saying enough about it, and so now you just gets too much and you explode, or just life gets around you explode. Something happens to spark an argument, and then it starts escalating. You start getting more and more mad, and the emotions build up, and you start yelling sometimes. Hitting's never should be an option or never be part of a fight. That's going to be another video to deal with. But let's just say it just escalates emotionally and you start yelling at each other. But then you need time to cool down. Just get away from each other, walk away. Good way to do that is to really say, okay, you know what? I've got to get away by myself. I love you and I want to resolve this, but I've got to get away. at some point. And that's okay, especially if you state it like that. Don't just say, oh, I hate you, and just run off. That happens sometimes, and it shouldn't, but it does. But whatever it comes to, ends up being that quiet time where you get apart from each other and you start simmering down. And that sometimes can take a little while to simmer down, but both parties need to be simmering down. What are you going to do during that time? Now, I know how it is. You're sitting there thinking, and that's like, God, I can't believe she did that. Can she not see how wrong that was of her? Can he not see what an ass he's being? I know those are thoughts that go through our head. So I know how we are in the middle of a fight. When we're fighting, it's like we just get blinders on the side of the head, and we can just see straight ahead. We just see our perspective, and that's all we see. We get very, very egocentric. I've talked a lot about how when we're emotional, we can't see the full picture. We just see one part and we get stuck on that one part. So remember that. When you're emotional like that, you're trying to calm down. Take deep breaths and relax and try to gain a perspective. What you do during the next couple parts, the next couple minutes, are going to be critical to the success or failure of your relationship. You want to be happy and you want to have good love and you want to have good relationships. This is critical. Can you take a deep breath, relax, and open up your mind and see what is their perspective? If I was looking at it from their side, what would it be like? And then can you swallow your pride and sit there and think, oh crap, maybe they're right. I hate that moment. Sometimes I just want to stab myself. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I could see how she took that wrong, and how when I responded like that, I kind of was being an ass, and I didn't take in perspective what all she was going through at that time. And I could see that she probably didn't mean it that way. It might come off that way, but she probably didn't mean it that way, because her history is she's being loving and she's nice. So why would I assume she's being an asshole this time? Maybe it just came off grumpy. Give her a little grace, give her perspective. Maybe she's had a hard day, and just know that she loves you and that it's not as angry, it's not as upsetting as you think it is. Can you do that? Those are just examples, but can you sit there and think maybe they had a perspective? Or maybe you're still in the right for the most part, but maybe you didn't handle it well. Maybe you could have handled it better. Maybe, okay, they weren't in the wrong, you weren't in the wrong, but I could see how it got misunderstood. Oh, I meant this and she meant that. Oh, okay, I get it now. And you can go then try to figure out how to go back and explain all that and deal with it. But can your overall goal and objective be, how can I reconcile this argument? Not how can I defend myself and build up a case. And so next time I come back into the room with her, I'm going to say, okay, now I want to add in, you're wrong because that and that and that and that and that. And now you're even more of an asshole than I thought before. So what's going to be your perspective? Are you going to try to look to reconciliation or to fight for your own honor? Because you fight for your own honor, you're going to end up losing in the big time. It's kind of like, okay, you might win the battle, but you'll lose the war. Sometimes it's better to call a truce in the battle and win the war later. Can you do that? That's a big critical part. But I want to look for a second at why is it so hard for us to admit we're wrong? Some people there's all kinds of thoughts that can go through our head, and a lot of these thoughts are really deep inside of our heads and are assumptions about us that we have from childhood and from early relationships. And it's really hard to get into our heads and figure out what those thoughts are. That's a big point of what psychotherapy does, is trying to look and see what are your thoughts in a relationship, what's your previous experiences, and try to figure out what are those thoughts that may not be helpful and may be wrong. Sometimes people have a deep-seated thought that I can't ever admit I'm wrong. Pride, arrogance. But it comes from a fear. No pride and arrogance comes without a deep-seated fear underlying you. If you're so afraid to admit you're wrong, why? If you admit you're wrong, are you afraid that they'll see the true you and then they won't love you anymore and leave? It seems kind of dramatic when you think about it, but that's really common to be inside of our heads, those deep-seated fears of abandonment. And you have to get those out in the open, out of your head, out in the open, and deal with them more logically and rationally. But can you start there by looking at yourself and thinking, maybe I'm wrong? And you know what? I'm going to trust this person, and if I admit I'm wrong, they're not going to jump all over me, but their walls are going to be broken down. They're going to come back to me in love and still love me and forgive me. They've shown already that they love me, even with my bad faults. So I'm going to have to trust them that they're still going to love me even if I fail, even if I'm wrong. But that's deep inside. You've got to get into the core of who you are sometimes. And it's a big problem. Sometimes we're afraid that if I admit wrong, then they'll say, oh, they have the upper hand. And now they're going to sit there and think they're right all the time. Well, just because I'm wrong on this time doesn't mean I'm wrong every time. No, it doesn't. You can apologize this time. Or even, can you apologize for one part of the argument? And sit there and say, well, sweetie, okay, now that I thought about it, I really was wrong. When you said this and I said that, that wasn't the best way for me to handle it. I still think I have a right to be mad at you when you did that, but it doesn't take away that I'm sorry that I did this. That can be a perfectly legitimate, good way of handling it. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, all wrong or all right. It's just you take responsibility for what you can take responsibility for. Can you do that? So if you can take that one critical step and admit that you may be wrong and look at someone else, you've achieved something that a lot of people can't. Humility, being humble. And congratulations, because being humble is so rewarding. It seems like being vulnerable, and it is, but that's what intimacy is with your spouse, with your loved one. It's being vulnerable, and yet they still hold you and take care of you and protect you. Now, the flip side around, if they're apologizing to you, can you take care of them and hold on to their vulnerability and appreciate it? Because it's not just humility. Humility also takes love. Do you love your spouse or your significant other, your loved one? If you love them, you care more about their happiness than you do your own. Doesn't mean you let yourself run over again, but it does mean you care about them and you value their opinion, you respect their opinion, and you want to take care of them, not just take care of yourself. In a fight, we're emotional, we're upset, we become selfish. And selfishness is not love and leads to only bigger problems. So can you love, especially with humility? Okay, so you admit you're wrong. You've realized, oh crap, I am wrong. I did wrong. I blew up there more than I should have. I wasn't being thoughtful. I wasn't being compassionate. I do want to make her happy. I do love her and appreciate all she's given me. I need to get back to her. So what can I do best? So what can I do to show that I want to make it right? What are the ingredients of a good apology? Okay, the ingredients of a good apology is first just say, I'm sorry. But you have to say I'm sorry in the right way. Not just, I'm sorry. Or, I'm sorry that you took it that way. Oh, that always gets to me. Ask my wife. I hate when she says that. It's like, I hate, when you're going to say you're sorry, you really want to own up to what you're sorry for. Don't say it if you don't mean it. That's just going to make the situation worse. I'm sorry. You really need to sit there and say, look, I'm sorry. But don't just leave it there. You might be sincerely sorry and you might say I'm sorry, but the person needs to know more than just that. We need to feel heard and understood. When we've been hurt, we need our feelings to be validated. We need to know that the other person really, truly understands. And they may never fully get to all the detailed words that you need to know, but can you accept when they're saying something to you, or can you get out to them that you at least understand the gist of what they're saying, that they are hurt in this kind of way? So when you're sorry, sit there and say, I'm sorry that I did this, or that I said that. Or I'm sorry I didn't do this, or I'm sorry that I was thoughtless and didn't think about how it was from your perspective. Can you say specifically what you're sorry for? If you can, throw in some of their words, so that makes them feel heard and understood, but you just can't mimic them like they think you're mocking you. That's the best way. But ideally, can you sit there and say what you're sorry for? Then, really bonus points. A lot of people, it's great if you can just do that, but it's bonus points and really helps the relationship if you can also sit there and say what you should have done differently. And even extra points if you sit there and say what you can do in the next time. Okay, next time I come home from work and you're doing this, I need to not do that, because I understand that you're stressed with the kids, or stressed, I'm sorry, I use stereotypical situation, but whatever the situation is, sit there and say, I'm sorry, I should understand next time I'm in this situation, I need to handle it this way. Can you say that? It's not that hard. It really isn't. And I don't want to make this sound like a cookie cutter or like just a formula, but it's more of the heart. Can you sit there and reassure the person that you're going to try to do better, that you're not going to let it happen again? That shows that you really care and you really do mean it. Okay, so that's about it. Apologizing, handling an argument is about love. You want to be happy, you got to work on the love. Marriages is hard, love is hard. You've got to work at it, but it's got to be so rewarding when you put your soul into it and you really sit there and try to meet the person halfway, try to meet them in the middle, try to be humble and love the person actively. Not just love as in desiring them, but love as in you're going to sacrifice yourself for the betterment of them and the relationship. And so can you do that? Okay, as always at the end of these videos, please do me a favor and subscribe. That would help me out so much. If you can, like and share this video with someone else you know might have troubles in their marriage. I know we all have friends who are like that. Feel free to please comment and below of what some of the arguments, some of the problems you have in your marriages regarding arguments. If there's some other issues regarding fights, I would love to address those in future videos. I'm coming up with one on fair fighting, the rules for fair fighting. So hopefully that'll help you out a lot too. So hang in there. Hope you can find peace in your storms. God bless you.